After falling to St. Mary's in the 2013 CAC championship game, Salisbury bounced back in 2014, capturing its 18th conference crown with a 12-4 victory over York in the title game. Salisbury, York, and Mary Washington each earned bids to the NCAA postseason, marking the first time in CAC history that 3 teams qualified for the national tournament. The CAC was the only Division III conference to send 3 squads to NCAAs. York advanced to the second round before falling to the Seagulls in a CAC championship rematch in round 2. The Seagulls then reeled off 2 more wins en route to a national championship game appearance in Baltimore before dropping a 12-9 decision to Tufts to finish the year as the national runner-up. Who were the biggest challengers to Salisbury for CAC supremacy this spring? Let's find out as we take an in-depth look at each team and count down the preseason poll along the way.
We want to compete for 60 minutes. I think last year, anybody who saw us play would agree we battled. Depth and experience and to some degree talent helped us, hindered us from competing really against these great CAC teams for 60 minutes. So I'd say our goal this year straight out is to bring it for 60 minutes and let the results happen. Key returners. So, we played with such a small squad last year, but we are lucky. We have Mike Bangeter back, who carried a ton of minutes for us as a utility midfielder. Defensively, Marcel Blake, who was a face-off long stick middies back. Defensively, at close defense, a couple of younger guys are back. Derek Purvis, Ebe, Cargbo. Trying to think, I don't want to forget anybody, but just a handful of guys are back. We lost a handful, 3 to graduation. We lost 3 to missions on a small squad to begin with, and so that's some of the guys that are back. Yeah, we've got a great group that came in the fall, and some additions this semester. We're absolutely expecting big things from offensively, a contribution from Casey Rich, a big player for us coming transfer off a mission. But also the additions we had from the fall. We had the addition of Ryan Larson, a former player from here who went away for a little bit and has come back. Sean Peterson's a great get for us, somebody who's been away from the game for a little bit, and he'll come in and have a big contribution to us. Freshman attackman Anthony Good's going to be very valuable to us. Russell Anderson's come on really strong as a midfielder, converted from attackman. Defensively, Greg Gowdy, the best get for us this summer. Somebody who could play elsewhere that chose to be here. He'll lead the defense, play a little long stick midi, position maybe he's not as familiar with, but we're expecting big things from him. And some other additions, kids coming off missions. Our goalie's going to be Derek Lamb, my son. He's going to have to fill some big shoes. He's not quite ready. He just, coming right off a mission only a few weeks ago, but he'll step in and do his part. Those are some of the guys we're looking forward to contributing. Well, I'll tell you, I did an analysis of what it's like to play in the CAC. I make the joke a little bit, not that I'm trying to joke about it, but playing lacrosse in the CAC is like playing football in the SEC. I feel like people don't quite realize what excited me to come here and be a part of this experience of a new school going to Division III, but not only that, but also coming to the CAC. It's competitive. I did an analysis of our schedule this year. Every team in the CAC is inside the top 100 in a RPI kind of system in lax power. 6 out of 8 teams that we play in the CAC are inside the top 50 in lax power ranking. So what I did to fill our schedule up is try to make sure we play some games that are not as challenging, but that's no slight to the teams coming in. Last year we didn't beat anybody out of conference except for our last game, but we've got games that are maybe closer to our ability level, and that's to kind of round out the schedule that we have that is so competitive in the CAC.
I feel like with this group, we have the opportunity to hopefully, even though we play in probably the most competitive and the toughest conference in Division III in the entire country, to make some real strides forward. The teams worked extremely hard in the off-season with the returners and our freshmen who have come in have really melded into the program and bought into what we're trying to do, and have worked very hard since they got on campus in August. And I'm excited about what our potential is for this year. I think we can be certainly a much improved team over what we've been the last couple of years. We return probably our top offensive returner will be James Moss or Sam Siebert at the midfield. James is a senior, 2-year captain, big, strong, athletic midi, is a great inside finisher, and also has a real strong power dodge. Sam Siebert, probably our best athlete at the midfield, is a junior. Sam's a 6'3", 195-pound midfielder that scores equally with his left and right hand, and still hasn't reached his full potential as a player. My feeling is, if he really has an exceptional season, he could be one of the top midfielders in the conference this year. He's got that kind of potential and is working very hard to try to bring out every ounce of skill and ability that he has. Defensive end, we're pretty fortunate. Our starting defense returns with senior captain Josh Ladd, senior Kyle Funk, and junior Eric Bonds at close, along with, at this point, it looks like it'll probably be Sam Kennedy, who's also a senior, be a 2-year starter in the goal for us. Sam's being pushed really hard by freshman Josh Dean. I think it's done nothing but make Sam better, and I feel real good that we're going to be very competitive in the goal this year with 2 outstanding goaltenders. I think with our 3 close defensemen, they're great position defenders. We're not necessarily a takeaway defense, but I think we play good, solid, much improved team defense. And I think those guys, having played an entire year last year together as a unit, and they all played some also is for the seniors in their sophomore year, and Eric is a freshman. They've had a lot of time on the field together, so I think they'll form a real cohesive unit, and they're great leaders for the defensive midfielders, alongst pole middies, and also our offensive middies when they have to play defense. So, our LSMs, probably our top is Sylvester Tapman. Sly's a senior, again, smart, real athletic young man, very coachable and a great team player. And then, Jack O'Neill returning is our top face-off guy, and Jack's great at winning the draw. He's worked hard on his athleticism, and with the change in the face-off rules, what we saw in the fall, he seems to be having a great deal of success. So, we're excited about what we're seeing, and just trying to continue to move it forward. I think some of the guys that are really going to make a difference for us, we've got a pair of twins, Joe and Will Fingles out of Delaney High School. Joe's an attackman, a little quick water bug type of guy who is tough as nails, and Will is a midi, little bigger in size, just great lacrosse IQ, great understanding of the game. We've got Devin Hyatt, who's another Maryland player from North Carroll High. We have, who again is a very solid midfielder, can shoot the ball, strong shooter, and Will and Devin are giving us the makings of a very strong second line midfield, and I think they're going to be extremely capable. We have Alex Collins out of South River High School, who's a reserve defenseman, will play some man down, probably is our 4th defenseman right now. Again, very heady defenseman, understands the game with great skills. Nolan Vesey out of Clearview in New Jersey, big, tall, athletic, long pole midi, is certainly going to help us. Leading into conference play, we open up this year on Valentine's Day at home with Ferrum. The following Saturday, we're down at Shenandoah University. The thing I like about the early part of our non-conference game is I think they're all games that we can be highly competitive in. We host Keystone College, which is a new Division III program, the last weekend in February. Then we added Newman University to the schedule on a midweek game, and then head to Richard Stockton, which was a nail biter last year. I think we won it in the last 7 or 8 seconds. So I know when we go up there, they're going to be loaded for bear and want a little revenge. And our guys understand that, hey, we're going to be playing them on the road. They're going to have the home field advantage, so we've got to play better and play our free lacrosse to come out of there. we leave for spring break from there, and we're going to play Piedmont College down in Rock Hill, South Carolina again, and then our final 2 non-conference games are with Misericordia, which is at home after break on a Wednesday, and then the following Wednesday we have Huntingdon coming up, and that'll wrap up our non-conference play, and we open up, I think, conference play on the Saturday in between, sandwiched in between those two. So, and we all know once you get to conference play, there are no days off. It's going to be a battle every day we're out there, and unfortunately there's no way to mix the schedule to say, well, you can get a little bit of a relief. It's going to be just a battle and a war every day, and you're playing teams that can be vying for a national championship almost every Saturday, which is the beauty of this conference. You know, to me, if a young man is looking to play really good lacrosse and test yourself against the best, why not come to a program like Wesley, where you may have an opportunity, if you're good enough, to play a lot over 4 years, but know that you're going to play great talent against great teams.
I think it's, when you ask that, it's kind of standard. We try to, have the same benchmark every year, that we want to make the CAC playoffs, but not only just make it, but make it to the CAC championship. Tough one. We had a pretty good senior class last year. Derek DiGiovanni in cage. He's going to be a big loss. Connor Kellogg was a leading scorer for 3 years, leading points guy for us for the team. Also lost our top face-off guy, Vince Lodato. Key losses, not a ton, but certainly some big shoes to fill for the young guys that we have coming in. We returned the whole defense, which is I can sleep easy at night. I think losing our goalie, but our whole defense comes back this year. All seniors, majority of them. Nico Burns at midfield, Jimmy Wendell at midfield, Matt Justice at attack. All key guys coming back for us, but pretty excited about the size of the class that we have returning, and what they bring to the table. We got some good freshmen in this year. We got a couple really solid transfers in as well. Excited this fall. We did well in our fall tournament. Really looking forward to our first challenge against Dickinson College for our first scrimmage. I think that some of the freshmen will make an impact right away. A few guys at attack. Nate Baird, we feel pretty strong about. Had a really good fall ball. As well, Kobe Simoneau, LSM, as well as Dan Bothwell at LSM, and he's also a FOGO for us as well. It's tough, no doubt about it. I think that we try our best every year to get as top-ranked a schedule as we can. We don't have to look far to play the best guys, because last year they were all in conference. I think that this year we're pretty excited about getting another chance at playing Albright College, who we lost to in the ECAC tournament, second round last year. They're coming down and playing us at home. A few guys return, a few opponents that we've had in the past come back, and that we always get excited for. You circle those on the schedule as soon as you get it. And Catholic was a big game for us. We always open up the season against them. Former CAC foe, but a big rival for us as well. I think that adding a few teams that we felt had really good years last year. Excited to get them at home. Got to take a couple road trips as well, though, too. So I think it's pretty competitive. There's no doubt about it. We try to do that. And we feel that that's what attracts the right kind of players towards our program. You got to play up. You have to play well on the road. Obviously, there are some tough opponents. I think that we had 5 ranked opponents in conference last year. I'm not sure that any other sport had that same kind of challenge as we did last year. I think it was fortunate to have that kind of perfect storm. I think we got better against tougher teams. You have to play well on the road. You got to get some big wins at home. Rising to the challenge is certainly one of those things. I think that at any moment you can kind of let it get away, or at the same time it can really go in your favor. That expectation all year, going into recruiting, going into summer training, into fall training that these guys do, they know it. They know full well that that's what the challenge is and what we need to do. So that thought is always in their mind, and we want to get better. We want to make something happen. We want to make some noise in the conference this year. And having that expectation from the beginning of the year, I think, is what separates this group of guys from others that I've had in the past.
Our goals are mainly process-oriented goals. We don't want to look too far ahead. We want the guys to hold themselves accountable and buy into being unselfish, buy into moving the ball, working hard. I think this year, at the end of the day, we want to be a good defensive team because of what we've lost on offense, and be in the hunt for one of those 6 conference playoff spots. That's a long list. Well, you have All-American Luke Dick at attack, 74-point scorer John Bollinger, Billy Kelly, who probably would have had that many if he hadn't been hurt, Joey Marson is a North-South All-Star, Chip Pittard, who had a great year with about 40 points, Charlie Webb, an All-CAC defenseman, Zach Del Grosso, an All-State goalie. It's a considerable list of losses. We have a lot to make up, especially on the offensive end. We have a big core, I would say, of defenders and defensive middies back. Close defense, Travis P., John Mulcahy, Jeff Quick. Tyler Houston's coming off injury. He's going to be thrown into the mix. We have 2 veteran sophomore long stick middies, and Sean Prinn and Will Gatens. We have 3 very good senior defensive middies in Chris Garcia, Jared Golden, and J.D. West. So at the defensive side, we're in very good shape, I think. At the offensive side, Greg Smith, senior attackman, Mike Marson, a sophomore midfielder, and then we're going to have to roll the dice and see who else falls into the offensive side of things. Colin Bresson, I think, a goalkeeper, has a shot to be a starter. The competition there is going to be tough. Owen Digman at midfield from Calvert Hall in Baltimore has looked very good in the fall. In the first few days here in January, Miles Davis, transfer attackman from St. Joseph University in Philadelphia. They've looked good. Ben Byrne at attack, who's a freshman from New Jersey, has started to show some potential. So I think we have a few guys who are ready to contribute. I think our schedule's harder than last year because we picked up a couple of tough out-of-conference opponents in Albright and Ursinus, both who are always around the back end of the top 20 and national tournament contention. The CAC is going to be tough again this year. I think we became probably the best Division III conference in lacrosse in the country last year, the only conference that sent 3 teams to the national tournament. We were fortunate to be one of them. And I do mean fortunate because it's a tough conference. You think of some of the teams that didn't make the tournament last year, the previous year's conference champion, St. Mary's, previous year's national tournament participant, Christopher Newport, Frostburg State, who made it to the ECAC finals, I believe, last year. And there's just a lot of good teams in the CAC now, and I think it's a tough league, one of the toughest in D3. Well, I hope we can figure it out, because I think the face-off rule, the attempt in the rewording of it and the way it's going to be officiated is to take the ball out of one guy's stick. I feel like in the past it's been a dominant face-off man can pretty much win the game for you, and what they're trying to do is get the ball out earlier and make it a 3 versus 3 and more of a scrum for possession, which gives teams that don't have dominant face-off men like us a better chance to win those 3 versus 3s if we have some competent wing players who are good at ground balls and moving the ball after they pick it up. So I look forward to the change. I think it's gonna maybe level the playing field a little bit, and it may be the last chance we have in lacrosse to get it right before we do away with the face-off if we don't get it right.
We're excited to get started this year. I think we came off a disappointing year last year. The expectations for us since I've been here are going to be to compete for the conference championship. You know, we want to come out of the gate playing very well, but we clearly want to play our best lacrosse at the end of the year. It's going to be important that we remain healthy this year, and with our schedule, I think that we have a really great opportunity to really take a step forward this year and kind of solidify that spot in the nationally and in the upper half of the conference. Had a couple of pretty dynamic kids last year, kind of right down the middle of the field, really. I think one of our two-year captains that we're going to miss his leadership was Gordy Long. Gordy was from St. Paul's, was a four-year starter for us, and kind of took over that quarterback role, which was difficult at midfield. And Gordy was a classic two-way kid, was a very good defensive midfielder, and you know, really did a lot for us offensively as well. Going to be very tough to, we're really not going to even think about replacing Ben Love. He was just a consummate goal scorer, tough kid, you know, blue collar, came to work every day, and we're trying to kind of epitomize that in our kids now, his work ethic. And somebody who who came on very, very strong his senior year was Zach Blewett. And Zach just, you know, I think had a great year. I think kind of, you know, was a little under the radar again nationally because we didn't have a great year. But I thought Zach's numbers, you know, really stood up to anybody's, and for us had a really solid year in the goal in his first opportunity. So again, will be tough to replace him. A couple kids we're looking forward getting back from injury. One, probably our most dynamic offensive player, is Matt Tarrant. We lost Matt to a season-ending injury against Christopher Newport, and that really took on a different tenor for us team-wise. Teams could guard us a lot differently when Matt went down. So he's fully recovered and 100%, and we're obviously very, very happy to have him back. Phil Capello, defenseman. Phil was a starter the first few games of the year, was playing on a bad knee to begin with, and we think that really took him away from his game. You know, he's a really solid cover guy, and it took away his lateral movement. So Phil, again, had surgery in the offseason, is back 100%. So I think those two, even though they were on the team for a portion of the year, you know, getting them back at full strength will be great. Will Lurch, Eric Simon, and Nate Babcock in the middle of the field are going to give us great depth and athleticism. And then Connor Jordan at attack is just, he's been a mainstay for his first 2 years, and as a junior, we're looking for him to really, you know, continue to be that goal scorer and leader. And then defensively, we're young, but Grant Lowenfeld is a senior. Grant's been in some big games, and we're looking for him to really step up and kind of control the defensive end for us. We brought in the last couple of recruiting classes have been very, very solid. So it's actually going to be tough for a freshman to step in and get extended playing time this year, barring any injuries. But we've got some kids we're really happy at. A couple of attackmen, Colin Dempsey from Boys Latin and Stephen Jones from Loyola, both very, very solid kids who we're thinking can do a great job for us. In the middle of the field, David Fritz has shown, you know, excellent potential right now, super athletic kid, and we're going to try to get him into the lineup. And defensively, Tanner Lamberti from Calvert Hall, big left-handed defenseman who we think has great potential. And we brought in a freshman goalie this year, Andrew Blood from Massachusetts, and Andrew's got all the tools to be an excellent, excellent keeper down the road. I'd like to say, I think, speaking about the conference first overall, and again, I've been kind of on the bandwagon about the strength of our conference. I don't want to say I've been out in front, but I've known for years that our conference was very underappreciated. Playing in it and coaching against the teams in the conference for so long, we are an excellent conference and we have excellent depth. I think that's been proven that in the last 2 years, we've had 4 different teams make the NCAA tournament. I see no reason why that should change. Now that we've gotten the AQ bid along with the Pool C bids, and I think it just showed the depth, within our conference. So you have to be ready to play. Every game is really huge. It makes it fun for all the teams, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then our out-of-conference schedule is, again, tremendously, it's difficult that we play a number of ranked teams, but I think 4 of our first 7 games are against ranked opponents. That's really going to set the tone for us. We're going to know, kind of where we stand, and, that can really, it prepares you for the conference. As the goal is always to compete and win the conference and secure the AQ, which we did a few years ago. We also have the schedule now that if we win the out-of-conference games that we feel we should compete and win, it'll set us up for the Pool C bid, and that is the goal, to compete for the championship and to definitely make the NCAA tournament.
We're looking to be competitive in the CAC. One of the things that we work with our kids on every day is to make sure that they're getting better, and that's what our biggest expectation is. We want to get better every day, and we think that will help us be competitive throughout the season, give us a good chance of participating in the CAC tournament, and then hopefully going on to the NCAA tournament. We graduated a very good class last year. Heading that class was Teddy Pikowski, who was our long stick midi, who was an all-CAC player, and then also Adam Abate, who was a 4-year starter as a midfield, and Aaron Chauncey, who was a 4-year starter as an attackman for us. Right now, I would say that we're counting on the defensive side, we're counting on Brendan Dwyer, who's a senior. This will be his 4th year as a starter. Mike Mabry, he's a junior, it'll be his 3rd year as a starter. They're going to headline our defense, along with our freshman, who was a freshman goalie last year, Matt Hayden. We're looking for him to start again this year as a sophomore. On the attack side, we got John Thompson. This will be his 4th year as a starter for us on attack. And in the midfield, we got Greg Lyman, who's a senior. And we also have Joey Rolando, Randy Foster, and Dave Magdeburg. Probably our biggest excitement right now is over a freshman, Matt Chris. Matt came from Albemarle and was the Virginia Player of the Year last year. And he's done a lot of things for us, playing at both midfield and attack throughout the fall and this spring. I like our schedule a lot. We start off usually ODAC heavy. We're going to be going to W&L first. Then we'll go to Ferrum. And then we're going to be going to Randolph-Macon and Hampton-Sydney, and it always gives us a good look at where we're at early in the season. We're also going to be playing Eastern, Virginia Wesleyan, and the Coast Guard Academies coming down to play us as well. And those are pretty much highlighting our out-of-conference games, which prepares for our in-conference games. We're really looking forward to playing some with Salisbury, playing York, Mary Washington, Frostburg. And we just like being in a conference now. It's a lot better than being independent. One of the things we started last year was loading up on away games early. We think it gives the kids a good chance to bond a little bit tighter than just playing here at school does. We really like that, and we liked having those harder opponents on the road because the CAC is tough. I mean, you can't let down for any of those guys. I think the biggest thing that we learned last year, particularly on the coaching staff side, was that while all of our games are important, those conference games are just critical. And in the past, as an independent, you almost had to win every game to get into the tournament. You just really couldn't lose games. We're now looking at our out-of-conference games to make us better, to prepare us to get ready for our in-conference games. And and then once those start, playing 2 games a week, once we're in conference, that makes it a little bit hard. The travel is not too bad. The travel is significantly better being in conference than it used to be as an independent, and I think that's helped us a lot. And I think if we could just focus on one game at a time, I think we'll be fine. I mean, we're going to go out and do the best we can, and we'll see where that takes us.
Our goals every year since we restarted the lacrosse program here at Frostburg has been to get better every year. In our first couple of years, I think getting better wasn't as hard as we've made it with the year that we've had last year. So we talk about measuring getting better by accomplishing things for the first time since we were a restart program. And last year we had our best record. We beat a couple teams that I think we hadn't beaten yet. We got to the conference semifinals, which were all things we did for the first time. So last year we thought we achieved those goals, and they just get harder and harder every year. So there's a couple teams in our conference we haven't beaten that we'd like to beat. We've never beaten a top 20 team, and our guys, they really want to do that for the first time. And if we're playing at that level, then we talk about we've made it to the conference semifinals, but we've never won a conference semifinal game. We've never gone to a conference championship. So those are all things that would be first for us. If we're achieving those goals, then if we don't win the conference tournament, we think that we may have put ourselves in the conversation for an at-large bid at the end of the season, and maybe we're talking about going to the NCAA. So losing Tyler Haynes in the goal is a key loss. He started for us when he was healthy for his whole 4 years here. So losing Tyler obviously is a big loss, and then the other one is the face-off position. Losing Billy Lark there. Over the course of Billy's career, he took a high percentage of our face-offs, and he won a high percentage of those face-offs he took. So we're certainly going to miss the possessions we get on the offensive end of the field just from having Billy being the guy taking our face-offs. At attack, obviously, we lose Ryan Serio, who is our all-time leading scorer at Frostburg, and had a great 4 years. He could really score in bunches and was a great man-up threat. On the defensive end, losing Kevin Kinney, is a guy that's started a lot of games over the course of his career, and started, I think, except for a couple games where he had a knee injury, started all of his games last year as a senior. And we returned Paul Newman and Zach Burkhart at defense. They're both two-time second-team all-conference guys for us, and they're both going into their senior year, so they've had a lot of experience. They're good leaders down there. And at attack, even though we lose a starter in Ryan Serio, we kind of think we return three key guys there. If you look at Nick Staley's points over his first 2 years, those are pretty impressive numbers given that he's primarily playing man up. We returned Devin Colgrove, who I think was one of the conference leaders in assists last year, had a lot of points for us. The ball's in his stick a lot. We create a lot from Devin. And then Spencer Love is a guy that conference rookie of the year his freshman year, put up a lot of numbers again last year, and we expect big things from him again. I think we return our top 4 scorers in the midfield this year in Chris Rios and Greg Bourne and Tate Rowland and Spencer Barnett. So we return a lot of depth there. Aside from the guys that have been key returners for us that have already been contributors as well, we think we have a lot of key returners that maybe just haven't had the opportunity to contribute as much yet. So when we graduate Billy, one of our key returners automatically is Eric Geiser, a guy who has taken over the course of his first couple of years has taken a lot of face-offs, and he's won a pretty high percentage. And again, in losing Tyler Haynes, we think we have two junior goalies that are very capable in Tom Kramer and Taylor Schmitz, and both those guys had great falls, and we're confident with either one of those guys moving forward. At the long stick midfield position with graduating kind of our top 2 guys, we're excited that we have Alex Phillips and Chris Santina coming back as sophomores. Michael Kibler is a guy that we've moved to the midfield. We just thought he was kind of too good and too athletic to be a reserve attackman, and we needed to get him on the field. So he's hopefully going to provide some midfield depth for those guys that we graduated. John Gamber is a guy that, again, recognized an opportunity with us graduating, Andy Lumen and Zach Douglas, and he's kind of become a two-way guy, a transition midi, a guy that takes wings and takes a lot of face-offs for us. So, we think a lot of those guys, with graduating such a big class last year, we've got a lot of newcomers, and we kind of reserve judgment on our freshmen because I think the biggest time for freshmen to develop is kind of after fall ball, when they realize where they stand and where they need to be, and they have an opportunity to work hard over the next 4 or 5 months to kind of state a case for themselves in the spring. So a lot of those guys still have a lot of time to kind of state their claim and see who we're going to play a lot. But in the fall, Bradley Jones was a really good freshman that can play defense or long stick midi. He played a lot for us in our fall scrimmages and had a good fall. And then again, I kind of mentioned that in the midfield last year, we've graduated a lot of guys that were key contributors for us. And in graduating so many guys, somebody's going to have to step in and fill some roles. So, we think Evan Arsenault and Ethan Aiken and Keegan Colgrove, hopefully will play themselves into playing positions. In conference, that's a pretty easy answer. Last year, of the 6 teams in our conference that made the the CAC tournament, at some point in the season, all 6 of those teams were either ranked or got votes for the top 20. So I don't know how many other conferences in the country can say that. So, I think that we might not be recognized among some of the traditional powerhouses like the Centennials and the NEWCOMERS and the ODACs just yet, but I think if we sustain that level for another year or two, I think we're going to have to be talked about among some of the better conferences in the country. So it's the conference itself is tough. It's really tough. We think we have some pretty challenging opponents out of conference that if we manage to win those games, it's really going to kind of help us represent the conference and represent our team pretty well.
We've got some high expectations. We can't really sneak up anymore, and we've, I guess, garnered attention, whether we deserve it or not at this point, I don't know, but I think there are high expectations for our team and to compete into May. And it starts with the 2 midfielders that were both All-Americans and All-Conference guys, Jamie Lowe and Seth Corliss. Really complimentary. They both were great players, but in really different ways, and so we could rely on them to carry the weight for in the middle of the field. So those guys being gone, you can't really replace those guys, I don't think, with one guy, but we're trying to do it with a whole bunch of guys and playing multiple midfield units and playing to our new guys' strengths. It starts with our attack. We have 2 seniors on attack and a junior, all have been playing together for quite a while. Tyler Hudson's going into his senior year, and if he can stay healthy and play to his potential, that's a good place to start. Tyler Davis, left-handed attackman, senior for us as well. The 2 of them work really well together, so he complements our finisher pretty well. And then Andrew Gamble, who's a junior, led our team in points last year as a junior. His first team All-Conference is back as well, kind of quarterback the offense. And I think we have more depth at attack than we've had in the past as well to support those guys. And then on the defensive end, we bring back the first team All-Conference goalie, Caleb Abney, is back for his junior season, and I think he's playing quite well right now. Defensively, we're really injured right now and banged up, and so currently relying on a lot of inexperienced guys for minutes. So it's kind of a work in progress. And then at the midfield, we lost 5 of the 6 midfielders. That's all playing time for us last year, and so it's just a whole bunch of new faces there, but a lot of them to work through, and so we're just trying to figure out what combinations work right now, the midfield. I think we have a really good freshman class. There's probably 4 or 5 of them that will see time. I like some of them on the defensive end. In fact, we have a pretty good freshman goalie, and then Ryan Cook kind of comes to mind, who's going to play some midfield for us as a freshman. who I think can play right away at the college level. Joey Fiorino on the defensive end, although he's hurt right now, I think when he gets back and healthy, he should be able to contribute. Matt Witcher from Long Island in the midfield, I think, can contribute right away. But I think all of them in their freshman class are further along than I anticipated our freshmen to be at this point. Yeah, I think we've done a good job of raising the bar yet again this year on our scheduling, and we just want to play the best competition that we can. We've added Gettysburg, who is one of the best traditions in Division III lacrosse, as well as Roanoke, who you could say the same thing for. Both are very good teams with very good coaches, which should help us prepare for our conference slate. You mentioned Stevenson. We play a whole slew of Centennial teams as well, McDaniel, Haverford, Muhlenberg. So our conference schedule will be a tough one, but it'll prepare us for one of the toughest leagues in the country. So I think the CAC is getting better and better each year. I expect it to be another good year in our league as well.
Well, our goals and our expectations are the same as they always are every year, that we want this team to realize its potential by the end of the season. Given that, with the amount of talent that we usually have in the program, then the second goal is obviously to be playing on the last Sunday and in May, as we've done 11 of the last 13 years. It's a solid team with a lot of potential, but there's a lot of maturity and development that needs to take place. Well, I think that there were several key losses from last season. Obviously, losing Alex Taylor in the goal, who was a legitimate first-team All-American candidate and had been to a couple championship games, was a big loss at the defensive end. Losing the left-hand shooter, who had really evolved, Luke Phipps, into an outstanding attackman, and was another key loss, on offense. And then, two outstanding middies at midfield. Losing Donovan Lang and Greg Corbin, who formed a very formidable first midfield line. I would say those are 4 or 5, but there was a couple. Zeke Smith, first-team All-American, long stick, was a big loss. Chris Beyont, the face-off guy, Rhett DePaul in the right-hand attack spot. So we lost 7 or 8 key guys that were very instrumental in last year's team's success. Well, I think the key, we got a few key guys back. Obviously, returning Preston Dabbs, as first-team All-American D midi, to head up, one of the key units of any defensive team. Having second-team All-American New Krause back at defense, along with returning starter Austin Kemp, is critical to our at the defensive end. But I also think that Davis Anderson has come back in the best shape of his life to give us 2 of the best D-middies in the country, and the return of Danny Scher after 2 years' abstinence, who's a viable All-American candidate also. That those guys at the defensive end really can hold the fort for us as we kind of evolve as an offensive unit. Obviously, returning Mike Kane with 48 goals on the offensive end is our top returning attackman. Sean Fitzgerald, who came on at the end, had 3 goals in the semifinal game last year to lead up the midfield, along with Tommy Sorello, who popped in 26 or 27 goals last year. Those are the core, or the nucleus of returning veterans that will hopefully be able to bring some of the younger guys along with them. Key newcomers right now, I would say that probably number 1, I would say that we have Will Nowensnick at long stick midfield, who will share time with senior Marty Wallace. He's an outstanding freshman, long pole. About 6'5", very rangy, great stick, good speed. He was very impressive in the fall. Garrett Reynolds had a nice maroon and gold game at midfield, who will be in the mix in that second midfield. But I think some of the other guys are guys that have been waiting in the wings. I think Carson Kalima is ready for a breakout season. His lax IQ is one of the best I've ever coached. That will really help at the attack. Nate Blondino we're really counting on him to have a breakout season. Has an injury right now. We're not sure when he's going to be able to start to play, but hopefully that he'll be able to start shortly. I think those are the key newcomers, along with Danny Scher returning, that'll be in the limelight throughout the season. Well, we pretty much play the best teams in the South, right from the get-go, starting with you know, a lot of key games with Lynchburg was in the top 10, you know, in the second weekend in February, to perennial power Widener, who's been in the tournament several times, and Gettysburg before we even get out of the month of February. And you know, then when we head into February, we're playing all the top teams again. Once again, we're playing Stevenson, Washington, Ohio Wesleyan, Cabrini. You know, that we have as good a schedule as there is, you know, in Division III lacrosse. Well, the conference, you know, the conference had always taken a bad rap for a long time, that we weren't a strong lacrosse conference, but yet, you know, we had more teams in the national tournament than any conference in the country last year, and each team has made another step to make the conference a more competitive situation. And with the addition of you know, Christopher Newport and Frostburg, and now in their 5th season, to go along with York and St. Mary's returning schools, and Mary Washington having their breakout season, you know, there's 5 or 6 truly outstanding teams in our conference that makes it extremely competitive throughout the year.